Is still summit. As I said earlier on, we are focusing on the ocean surge, the recent ocean surge at Kuramo Beach here in Victoria Island. And they say prevention, they say, is better than cure. Our preoccupation on this program today is to actually probe into how it happened and then to prevent a repeat occurrence of that. So we're discussing ocean surge, and my guest is already in house. I have an expert, somebody whose business, who has spent his life actually studying marine sciences, and today is an expert at that. I'm talking about Dr. Ikena Charles Onyama of the Department of Marine Sciences, University of Lagos, UNILAG. Oh, it's not a university, Boshood Abiola University of Lagos. Our topic has been ocean surge at Kuramo Beach. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, ocean surge. So much furore occurred after that surge. It's not as if it's the first time. Was it the first time?
No, it is not.
So why was there so much noise and furore after that surge? Why do you think there was so much noise about it?
Well, first and foremost, my deepest condolences to people who lost family and friends and even properties in the surge and the beach overflow. But it's not the first time, and it will not be the last time. These are natural events as a result of a number of factors, man-made factors and natural factors.
Man-made factors
and natural factors. Yeah. The fact that it's a coastline, the ocean dynamics, and the west-east movement of currents on our shoreline, as against the global climate change leading to sea level rise right now.
Okay. The global change, you said. The global change has been one of the causes.
Yes.
For us in this part of the world, especially in Lagos, people have adduced several reasons. Some of them are the fact that, well, constructions, dredgings, sand fillings here and there along coastal lines or even inside the ocean, yes, could be some of the remote or maybe immediate causes. Yes. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree. A combination of factors usually give rise to these kinds of issues. I mentioned sea level rise. If it coincides with high tidal levels and in an area where the sediment profile is already compromised as a result of large-scale habitat modification over time, then you can have a situation like this. Over the years, the Bar Beach area and the Lagos Harbour area have witnessed large-scale habitat modification in terms of construction, in terms of dredging, in terms of siltation, etc., etc. And these have been done within a natural systemic west-east movement along our shoreline. Most of this construction have impeded and blocked the natural flow. So nature tries to reclaim its own to maintain an equilibrium. It's like the game of Ayo. I don't know whether you know Ayo.
Ayo, yes, yeah.
Very good. So you take from one, you put into the next, and you keep going. When nature has a flow and a regime, and man comes and puts a stone mole, big stone mole in the form of harbour breakwaters like we have in the Lagos Harbour or Commodore Channel, or shipwrecks, or the Eko Atlantic scenario we have right now, the large habitat modification project we have, they block the natural flow, and in blocking it, they make deficit sediment on the downstream side. I think that is what the problem is. Now, when that sediment deficit leads to vulnerability in that coastline, and then allows it to be attacked more easily by high tidal levels with rough sea seasons, and then global climate change and all these other effects comes in, there's an exacerbation of the situation and there's an overflow. And mind you, this situation is constantly occurring. It becomes more, the razzmatazz is more when it happens where there are people living. But right now, over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, it has been happening all over our coastline, particularly the 180-kilometer coastline of Lagos State. In Alpha Beach, it's constantly happening. In Akpese, just 1.5 kilometers away from Kuramo, It is happening on a monthly basis, but there's nobody there to report it. You know, they say ignorance is bliss, and what people don't know won't hurt them. But you see, there's all this fury, like you mentioned earlier, because there are loss of life, loss of property, and that point is in a noticeable hotspot, and then there's a lot of attention there. But just as I said, just the next lagoon, Unijedi Lagoon, you will notice that it happens every month. There are at least 8 shipwrecks between the Lagos Harbour and Unijedi Lagoon, a space of less than 5 kilometers.
Okay, no government actually wants to watch and see or witness unnecessary deaths.
Yes.
Along these coastlines. Maybe that's one of the reasons.
Yes.
The state government went ahead and constructed or had the moles there.
Yes.
Are you saying that was not done with the support of the experts, or don't we have the expert, or is it the expertise that is lacking? For me, what could have been wrong with that? Was that wrong to have actually prevented the water from actually?
I think more importantly, the construction of the projects, like all over the world, whether you call it Dubai or in the Gulf of Mexico, America, Great Britain, and all that, we have large-scale coastal projects going on. That's not the problem. The problem is, for every project to be approved, you have what you call an EIA. It's a supporting document, environmental impact assessment. Within this assessment, which allows and assesses and evaluates the impact, the potential impact on the environment of your proposed project, you have what they call a mitigation plan, which is monitored, wired into this report you must submit. I think what we have done is that we had looked more on the economic side and not balanced it with the ecological side. Hence, when we have...
How?
Yes. We look at the profits or the economic beatitudes, if you like, of the project, what it will bring to us economically. But if we always have to look at the ecological part of it, biodiversity, loss of coastal environment, loss of fishing villages, destruction of coastal infrastructure, etc. Vis-a-vis, for instance, rising sea levels. And then the seasons are liable within that framework. A lot of it has to go into consideration in packaging an EIA. Now, the EIA must now be enforced to the letter so that all the advantages that will come are wonderful. Employment opportunities, better economic value, tourism, aesthetics, etc., wonderful. But now the negatives, how do we mitigate the negatives? The downstream effect is what happened at the Kuramo beach. The Bar Beach, Ahmadu Bello Way, even from before independence, had been witnessing high rates of loss of coastline. At one time, 5 kilometers of coastline went within a decade. Now, they hard engineering coastal management systems on ground right now. But if you notice, the X blocks, which is the style of coastal engineering management system used there, ends just before Kuramo Beach. So it made exactly vulnerable Kuramo Beach. For that, it has been setting it up for so long, and then I think it's very clear that that's what has happened over time.
Our coastline is much longer than what we have in Lagos.
Definitely.
From the information I have, we have well over 800 kilometers of coastline in Nigeria.
Yes.
Why is Lagos much more vulnerable to things like this?
Wonderful. Thank you very much. In geological time, the formation of the lagoons of southwestern Nigeria, what we would like to call Lagos right now, is as a result of its inclination of its coastline. You will notice that the coastline of Lagos is almost perpendicular to the Atlantic Ocean. And all over our shoreline, that seems to be the only place where we have a very perpendicular, if you like, coastline, which spans for about 180 to 200 kilometers. The southwesterlies wind comes at an angle of about 43 to 45 degrees, depending, varies slightly with season. Anywhere on the West African coast, where you have a 45 to 43 degrees angle with regard to the southwesterly wind, you'll find lagoons. All the way from Senegambia, about 20 lagoons in Ghana, at the point where you have this inclination. So the same effect and coastal dynamics on areas that have those inclinations are not the same like you find in the Niger Delta region or the transgressive North Coast region, the Ayetoro area, Benin, Forcados, San Boromeo, Calabar, all the way to Bakassi. they won't have the same inclination because we have the dominant Guinea current. It comes from west to east. But it comes at an angle. This is water we're talking about. You block it here, it bounces off this way. But it meets an angle, that an angle it meets, it reduces. That an angle it meets, it continues to flow. You try to block it on one side, it bounces to the other part. So Lagos is more vulnerable, and that's why you find only lagoons in Lagos, and you find estuaries as you move towards the 500 kilometers of the Niger Delta.
I've always I met the Ocean Beach in the 70s, the way about a kilometer or so
Yes.
to the residential area.
Yes.
Was that even ideal, or was that the way it was originally?
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Even pre-independence, we have already had this problem coming on, because between 1901 and 1930, 3 stone mills were built to preserve the harbour entrance so that large draft vessels can come in to the wharves, to the quays, to the embarcaderos, to the jetties, to offload their cargo and services. But in doing that, we had obstructed the natural flow. Even back then, before independence, we had lost well over 10 kilometers of coastline. Yes, there are reports of it by Western ecologists who came even then to capture some of all these realities. And we already knew it was coming to us. It didn't just happen today. It's saying that we set up ourselves. That's what it actually is. But don't forget, this just didn't happen. It has been happening. This was just notable, and this was in the public view. That's why this has all the razzmatazz, if you like.
Okay, what do you think is the way out of it? Because actually the end result is what matters to the people.
Definitely.
How do we avert any disaster in the future, either minimal or great disasters? How do we go about it? We have enough expertise.
Yes.
The resources are there to actually mitigate, as you said.
Yes.
The mitigational factors are defective.
Yes.
So how do we actually put in structures or enough measures to avert this in the future?
We must take the ecological side to economic realities very significantly. The ecological side of economic realities very significant.
And in answering that question, I actually want you to take into consideration what is happening along River Niger, River Benue now, with unprecedented loss of lives arising from flood across the banks. What do you think we can do to actually avert such disasters?
Yes, we have our meteorological agencies. They will have to seriously, timely information is key. It can really assist. The global warming issue and climate change is causing extremes of climate conditions, extremes of weather conditions. So sometimes when you're expecting moderate amount of rainfall, you get very heavy. Then when you're expecting moderate, you get very little. So you see droughts here, very hot, unusual seasons here, and then flood waters coming at a time when you don't expect them. So information is key. Man from the industrial age has, if you like, polluted our environment. We are suffering from the effect now. And it will continue for a few more decades. We must take a holistic approach in solving ecological problems. Man must be more friendly with nature. Man must take cognizance of nature, or nature's fury will lash back at us. We pray that doesn't happen, but we have to prepare for it holistically.
Okay, where the incident happened, I'm talking about Victoria Island and the other coastal areas along that zone.
Yes.
It's maybe one of the areas where we have the highest beehive of activities, economic activities.
Yes.
So what do you think can be done to actually safeguard the lives of people in that region?
Okay.
Or do we then say, or should we say those people should be evacuated before anything could occur?
Anyone's life is very, very significant. So right now, and more importantly, because we are in the rough sea seasons. Rough sea seasons. Between August and September, the seas are rough. For those who live in the coastal environment, they know what they mean by when they say the seas are rough. They say the water is angry. You hear the water is angry. Like they say sometimes. So it's not like the seas are rough, because the global wind patterns are very energetic. You hear hurricanes and typhoons and cyclones, or sea storm surges all over the world right now. So the tropical area is energized right now. Now with high tidal levels and a compromised coastline, that's a recipe for disaster. What we must do right now is areas that are more vulnerable. You have to move the people out because you don't know when it happens. Time and tide waits for no one. That tide is part of the issue now. That tide with rising sea level can exacerbate the situation. You have to either move them out, and beach nourishment or holistic coastal management system must be brought in with experts to handle shoreline processes and mitigate them adequately, calculatedly. Very, very important. Or else calamities will not be forestalled. The ocean will not warn you. There are early warning signals, especially when you have tsunamis and all that in different parts of the world. But we must begin to domesticate the issues as they affect us. We must study the issue, know the levels and characteristics of our situation, and provide solutions, and then follow them to the letter. Management seems to be the problem in this part of our world.
Management seems to be the problem in this part of the world. My guest has been Dr. Charles from the Department of Marine Sciences, UNILAG. And our topic has been ocean surges. Yes, taking into cognizance, actually, our case study has been Kuramo Beach, the ocean surge that happened last month at Kuramo Beach. Of course, but the discussion has been very, very holistic. He's talked about other ocean lines in the country and what we can actually do to mitigate. Effective mitigational factors, effective mitigational structures have to be put in place to actually prevent, because like he said, the ocean is furious and it could happen anytime. We do not want to experience tsunami in this country. Now, Doctor,
yes, sir.
So much about the ocean lines problem, ocean line challenges and all that. Lagos has actually spent so much. Yes. That is, the Lagos state government has actually invested so much. Now, looking at the cost implication of actually putting in, you said we should be ocean friendly. Yes. Looking at the cost implication of actually putting in structures to actually ward off or mitigate this effect of the ocean surges effectively. Yes. Do you think this is not beyond the Lagos state government preoccupation or project? Don't you think there must be a synergy even at the federal level to actually tackle this problem, because it's a national problem? Yes. It's not Lagos problem.
I agree because it's still part. Immediately after Lagos, we have our territorial waters, and it's the national territorial water, if you know what I mean. Since Nigeria is a littoral state, we are bounded by the Atlantic Ocean, particularly to our southernmost extreme. I think there must be immediate collaboration between the federal government and the state government to harness and to deal with the issue at hand, because it's really, really very serious, and it will keep increasing, because for the next 7 decades, even if we stop global warming trends now, for the
next 7
decades, the sea levels will keep rising, because we started this, the issue started over 250 years ago, from the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century. The invention of the internal combustion engine, and then the letting go of carbon monoxide and the greenhouse gas into the atmosphere that blankets it. So sea level rise, high tidal condition, and then don't forget that we have high energy waves on our shoreline. Not like in some climes which have coastal environments, but they have low energy waves. We have high energy waves, impactful waves. You go to the bar beach, you will see them. They keep pounding, and they don't wait for you. When you are sleeping, they are pounding. When you are awake, they are pounding. The down extreme of these large constructions must be mitigated. There must be palliatives or buffers to remediate the effect of these energies as they move, because water continually moves in an angle. Like I mentioned, it moves west to east on our shoreline. The whole of our Nigerian shoreline, it must move west to east. That's how our estuaries were built. That's how the lagoons were built. The city of aquatic splendor, like we call Lagos, was largely, if you like, constructed naturally in geological time by the inclination of that shoreline. Are we together? That's really it. So we must preserve, work hand in hand with nature to understand it and mitigate the downstream effect side of large construction. And information is key to the coastal inhabitants.
Okay.
They must be aware what is happening, how to mitigate it, and then you must pull all stakeholders together in arriving at the plan for the area. You know, I mentioned the impact assessment. There are points of it where you must bring in stakeholders, and they'll come and see what you want to do, and they'll say yes or no, or tell you how to ameliorate or adapt some of the strategies you want to use, and eventually your total package, is it good with us? Do we like it? Don't we like it? Before it is approved, then you can go for the various authorities to now approve before you now start the execution of your project. But when you start the execution of a project, you can decide not to implement the monitoring aspect and implement the project aspect. That's why I said economic and ecological considerations must be balanced. The coastal environment is very energetic.
The coastal environment is very, very energetic. Yeah. I want you to be very specific. What's the recommended space for the buffer zone?
The buffer zone?
Yes.
I'm not sure where you're getting to, sir.
No, I mean between the habitat, the residential structures there, and the sea and the ocean. Rather.
Okay.
What do you recommend? Because you just spoken about getting ready to be evacuated. That's the inhabitants.
Okay.
So if some of them must be evacuated, what's the recommended? Because some of them are uncomfortably very, very close to this.
Yes.
So what do you recommend as the
I won't be an authority in that. There are laws and conventions of the sea, United Nations law of the sea, UNCLOS 1, UNCLOS 2, UNCLOS 3. There are other conventions that tend to remediate territorial waters, free trade zones and all that. I think those authorities will need to come on board. That's why I say a holistic approach will need to come in to be able to tell what must happen and design a roadmap, a blueprint for continuous cordial existence with nature in the coastal environment.
Thank you very much, Dr. Onyama, Dr. Charles Onyama from the University of Lagos, from the Department of Marine Services, University of Lagos. He can be more explicit. He can be more educative than the way he has been in the last couple of minutes on the program. We've been talking about the ocean surge, particularly at Kuramo Beach. But of course, we're not limited to that. We're talking holistically about what's happening along the coastal lines in the Federation. And we're saying this is a project that is even beyond the Lagos State government, that it requires a synergy between the federal government and the state government to actually invite even the stakeholders, everybody, and maybe foreign experts to sit together and actually come up with a roadmap on how to actually mitigate, how to actually prevent a repeat occurrence of the frequent ocean surges along our coastal lines. Thank you very much, Dr. Charles.
I'm deeply grateful.
And I must say that I really enjoyed and I thoroughly learned in your I mean, it can't be better than when you used to deliver the classes. Those students, I envy them with the kind of knowledge they acquire on a daily basis.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm very grateful.